and up to date. Thank you. And Carl Bart is no longer in Maryland, but he is continuing as our treasurer, and he's doing a great job keeping everybody informed of the budget and making sure that all of our bills are paid. We have a board of directors. Our communication director now is Will Fink. I really appreciate him stepping onto into the board and helping us with that. Our continuing education director now is Tate Westbrook. Laura Olson continues as our job program coordinator, and Phil Gaithier is still our membership director. Cheryl Duvall, who you see on the screen here in red, is our program director, and Dave Sire continues as our webmaster, and our three members at large are Hillary Howes, Alan Karpus, and Robert Doolittle. So we're going to be having new nominations and elections at our November meeting, which is going to be in December. And we start off here thanking our volunteers. As I said, Will Fink, Director of Communication, his term will end because he's just filling in for the current director, but his term will be ending this December. And then we have Tate Westbrook as our Director of Continuing Ed, and he will be with us for another year, ending in December of 2026. Our elections will be held at our annual business dinner meeting. That's going to be on Monday, December 1st. Please arrive around 5:30, and we will begin. That's at the Elks Lodge. It's only a members meeting, but we are going to carry it on Zoom as well. But I would like to have a full house. It's nice to have everybody face to face sitting around tables. It's just a wonderful opportunity to have a good conversation with the people in your association. We have to have your RSVP because we need to tell the kitchen how much food to cook. The cost is going to be $15 per member, but the dinner is valued at $38. So I think this is a good deal, and appreciate your attendance. There's a link under calendar/upcoming programs and business meetings, and that will get you. Can you go back just a second again?
Yeah, I'm going to show them. That's what I was trying to do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. It's being, so if they go right here, they can do details. I'm already registered, so I can't register again.
All right, it's time for me to register. All right, and then that's when we'll have our elections. And we can still receive nominations, but they close tonight. This is the last day when you can nominate yourself or somebody with their permission that you would like to see in one of the board of director positions. And so please email that to our secretary, Bob Thompson, and you can read more at that website. Okay. Let's see here. These are the current nominations. We closed this evening. President nominated is Cheryl Duvall, and then our Vice President, Davis Jones, and our Assistant Vice President, Greg Paps. They will be continuing. If they're elected, Bob Thompson will continue as our secretary. Carl Bart, Will Fink, Hillary Howes will be our new program director if she is elected at the meeting. And we will have a new member at large, Priscilla Travis, and we will continue with Rob Doolittle and Alan Karpus. So let me turn this over now to Cheryl. Cheryl, you are next on the podium.
All right. Thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate it. We did welcome 29 new members in the past 6 months, and their names are listed here. We have more than 340 members of CAPCA. So we're hoping to see, yes, it's amazing. So we're hoping to see as many members as possible, as Tony said, at our elections on December 1st. I think the first time I attended right after I joined, it was the first time that you all had gotten back after the COVID break and people not being together. I think there were almost 60 people there. So I would love us to see as many people come back this time. So please do register for December 1st. The CAPCA was very well represented at the recent boat shows. We have big thanks to Alan Karpus and his committee. There were so many volunteers that staffed the CAPCA booth at both of the boat shows. We collected 49 leads at the powerboat show, 58. And when we say that, they're filling out paper or giving us their information. 70 of those leads were from licensed captains who showed an interest in joining CAPCA. So we're getting our name out. The other ones of those leads could be people that need a captain, and we were letting them know about our, how to use our jobs board and list the position. So thank you all for those that volunteered. Alan has recently announced his retirement from this position, so we are looking for a new boat show chair. And I did talk to someone the other day, says, I don't know that I want to do it all by myself. I'm like, you could have a co-chair. It can work that way. So please email your interest to president@capca.net, which will go.
And Cheryl, may I just add that this is such a great investment of our budget to be at these boat shows, to get 70 leads from licensed captains that's how we're growing. And I'm really appreciative of all the volunteers that went to this show and staffed the booth. Thank you all very much.
Totally agree. The last announcement before we introduce the speaker is that we have no programs in November, but our programs committee wanted to take advantage of that and schedule a tour. So we have a tour coming up on, it was members only, and now we've opened it to guests of members that have been registered. This could also be maybe the member's not going, but the member can register somebody who would like to go. So I've gotten a couple of people saying they had trouble finding where to do this. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to go back, share my screen and show that if you go, you have to log in first. You'll see up here, I am logged in as a member. And then you go to upcoming special events. You click there. And Dave Sire has nicely made a separate registration for guest only. So I have not registered a guest yet. My husband's not able to go, so I've reached out to a friend, but I would go in here and then process their registration, but I have to fill out their name instead of mine because I'm already registered. So that is how you're supposed to do that. And Dave Sire, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this correct? Go in, details, name of your guest. And we have 9 available places. Thank you, Dave. So 9 available places. We would really like to have this be a sold out crowd. So if you're able to go, we would very much like to have you be with us. All right. And that registration, by the way, closes a week from Wednesday. Closes on November 5th because we have to get the list of names of the registered members and guests to the Trade Point Atlantic Marine Terminal. So they've asked for that a week ahead of time. Okay, so without any further ado, I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to our speaker, Captain John Wesley Nash. And I also want to say a big thank you to Bob Thompson for coordinating this. He's one of our amazing active program committee members, and I really appreciate Bob securing and coordinating all this with John Wesley Nash. So Captain Nash.
Before we go live here, I'd just like to say 2 things quickly. First, yes, it was wonderful working with Bob, and I appreciate all his help in coordinating this and helping me put this together. I also want to shout out to a lot of old friends here. It's great to see people that I haven't seen in many years, especially now that I'm not in the Indianapolis area. And I want to say that Priscilla, I can't believe how good a job you do communicating, keeping us all informed on what's coming up, all the job postings, and the newsletter. The newsletter is fantastic. It's one of the best I've seen, certainly in our industry, but in pretty much all nonprofits. And it's an honor to write a column every month, to be a little part of that. But you do a wonderful job with that, and I think you should be recognized for that. All righty, let's see if we can get this started. Okay, hopefully you see my screen. You do see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, it's my honor to be doing this presentation tonight, and I'm glad to have this opportunity. So this is a little bit about me. I've I've been a member at CAPCA since 2007. Had a lot of good jobs during that time. Acted as educational director for several years, which was one of the more um, enjoyable positions that I served in CAPCA, and served on the board, and held a few other positions. And I kind of miss being in Annapolis. So I have 50-ton masters with assistance towing endorsement. And currently, having left Annapolis, not always voluntarily, but I do live now full-time down in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. Weather and boating down here is very different, but I still enjoy coming up to Annapolis when I can. So let's have a few ground rules. We don't have a big crowd tonight, so this probably won't be as important as it could have been if we had a lot more people. But everybody should have their mics muted, and they should stay muted during the presentation. It's your choice if you want to put the video up or not. The chat button, if you're not familiar with it, it's necessary or useful for what we're going to try to do here. That's the icon where it is, and it's going to be part of being able to ask questions. When it comes to asking questions, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. I think that'll make this go more logically. During the presentation, it'd be good for you to submit your questions. You can do it either chat that we just talked about, or if you prefer, you can text it to Bob. And if you must ask the question during the presentation, please quickly unmute your mic and do short, timely questions. I think this would probably be less strict in this presentation because we're not sitting in front of a lot of people. So, who is ABYC? ABYC is an acronym for American Boat and Yacht Council. It was founded in February 1954. I had no idea it was this old. We share about the same age. In fact, I love wearing our cap because on the back of it says established in 1954, and I was also. It was incorporated in New York State as a nonprofit. And it was formed, this is interesting, it was formed by members of the Motorboat and Yacht Advisory Panel of the U.S. Coast Guard's Merchant Marine Council. I've heard of the Merchant Marine Council. I'm not sure if that's still active. But back then it was quite prominent. So why was it formed? And what is their purpose? Well, it was formed because back at that time, pretty much everyone in the marine industry kind of did their own thing. There wasn't a lot of coordination. There wasn't any standards on how to do things. So there was no defined process or organization to share, develop it, or test industry standards. It was, let's try something and see if it works. If it works, we'll share it with our friends. And you see it's quite different from back in 1954 to what it is today. But it's a wonderful, wonderful organization today. If you ever have a chance to interact with them, I think you'll be very, very pleased. So today, ABYC develops voluntary global safety standards. These are not mandatory, they're voluntary, but you will see that 90% of boats are built to ABYC standards. Pretty much if you look at the standards and you look at how your vessel is built, it pretty much in this day and age absolutely follows their standards. They have standards for construction and repair practices. And all told, they have 85 plus different standards, published standards. In fact, I think the last time I looked, it was 87. In the case where you have an absence of military specification, ABY standards are the reference or the default, and these are used for vessels for Navy, vessels for the Coast Guard, vessels for Homeland Security, and any other government entities that operates boats or vessels. So they're the authoritative reference. It's often used in product liability lawsuits, subject like design, construction, maintenance, and product performance. It's if you haven't built your boat to an ABYC standard or you didn't build it in complete compliance, it could be something that you would have to deal with in any sort of lawsuit. Vessels built to the ABY standards are less likely to have accidents and fatalities. They're just like we see a lot of statistics carried on by or recorded by the U.S. Coast Guard associated with recreational vessels. The same things occur with any databases associated with such incidents, as far as do they go back to ABYC standards, and has there been any I don't want to say violation or variation from them that have increased accidents or fatalities. So it's well tracked and it's well monitored. So where did the standards come from? ABYC has 16 project technical committees called PTCs. That's what it stands for. So they're organized by subject matter. If you're an expertise in the electrical field or possibly air conditioning field, construction, you can sit on organizations that are associated with this PTC or committees, and you can either contribute directly or monitor their development and have input. They constantly review and update the ABYC standards. So these committees never do end, they never close. They're in a constant process of looking at the standards and updating them. They publish technical information reports, so it's not only developing standards or updating standards, but they publish technical information reports that help people understand maybe why we need a standard that we don't currently have, or some of the research that tells us that a standard we have really should be revised in certain areas. Project Technical Committee members, they have appropriate technical experience like we talked about. I'm not an air conditioner expert, so I wouldn't sit on the air conditioner PTC, but it does include persons from the boat builders, accessory manufacturers, surveyors, technicians, and consumers. I actually do sit on 4 PTCs associated with disciplines that I have expertise in. And anyone can apply to join a PTC. If you go to their website, you'll see the ability to fill out an application and indicate what PTCs you'd like to be nominated for. And it's quite informative. I get pretty much I don't want to say constant, but pretty routine emails associated with what the PCC is doing and their progress associated with certain standards. And even though I'm not physically present, anything that they develop as a potential standard or revision to a standard, I get an email indicating that this is what I should review and have a period of giving my input back. It's rewarding. Another part of ABYC is their certification programs and how they certify different people in our industry. So part of certification program qualifications is you must be a marine professional with demonstrated expertise, field experience, and continuous education. As we get in here a little bit more, you'll see that that ABYC has many different educational programs, certifications, and you must have a continuous process of keeping yourself up to date with that stuff. You also have to demonstrate that you have field experience and you're not simply someone starting from scratch. There are two major categories. There's a master technician. So they're certified to perform troubleshooting, repairs, and equipment installations. So those are the hand-on guys. Those are the guys that when you go to a repair facility and you want to make sure that you got someone that's properly educated or has the experience, you want to see if you can, if they have an ABYC certified technician on board. And the guys that actually takes the cowling off your motors is the master technician. But they also have a different certification called master advisor. And they work within the marine service sector, but they do not physically work on boat repairs. So things like surveyors or writers, when you go into a facility, advisories and people that write up your work and people that help figure out what service you need, they can be a master advisor certified by ABYC. And they also have to maintain, like their brothers, they must maintain at least 3 ABY certifications, and certifications expire in 5 years. So it's not like you get one and it lasts forever. You have to constantly, consistently update your certifications. And these are some of the categories of certifications. As you can see, they're quite extensive: electrical, corrosion, composites, air conditioning, marine engines, fuel systems, advanced marine electrical. Many of these individual categories have subcategories within them. They certainly are some of the most respected and complete and useful programs that you can take. So there's another part of ABYC. We talked about the standards. We've talked about their certification process. But they have a division called the ABYC Foundation, and that runs the Marine Trades Accreditation Program called MTAP. And the purpose of those schools in which they oversee is to increase or continuously maintain a pipeline for future marine technicians. As all hands-on type of industry jobs and such, they have not stayed really up to date with what's needed. So it's back to to maybe you can do better being hands-on journalists or journeymen or expertise than possibly going to college and studying who knows what. But certainly you can make quite a good life in future being a marine technician. And this organization accredits schools and allows you to develop people to take that path. And so MPEG, as I said, they certified ABYC affiliate and accredited schools. There's just like we've seen in getting your master technician certification, the schools have also a very complete program and things that they have to prove and programs they have to maintain and the way that ABYC standards request them to become an ABYC affiliated school, and a school that is MTAP certified. So these programs, they can start or actually operate in secondary schools, high schools, or post-secondary schools, trade schools, in different marine service technology programs. One of the things that they do that is very well respected is they have a program that they call from military to marine technician program. Anyone that's a veteran or coming out of the military, they have an option to go into this program and fast track to marine technology, marine technician certification. Certainly some of their background puts them ahead of the game with that. And even if they don't have that and they want to go into this type of industry. They give them all the support that it takes to be successful with this program. And the other thing it does is it provides ABYC memberships for students in schools. ABYC memberships for students is discounted. As we'll see in a minute, ABYC memberships are extremely valuable, and be able to having special rates and special programs that allows the students to take full advantage of that membership is part of what they also do. And they have scholarships for students seeking training and education in this field. So the foundation is quite an active program, and in my opinion, one of the more important things that ABYC does in being able to maintain the quality of technicians and repairmen and advisories, things like surveyors and such. Things like boat manufacturers knowing how to build boats to standards. That all can come through the education that's under the program called the ABYC Foundation. The other thing is that ABYC has a social media division, or they are very active in social media. As you can see here, they're pretty much on every platform. I follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn full-time, and they also have some good, as we'll see, some good free educational videos that are on YouTube in the open. But I advise you that if you are interested in being informed on what the current ABYC standards are and where they're going and what programs they're bringing light to, even some of their nonprofit work, go ahead and follow them on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, whatever's your social media of choice. So as we said, they're very active on YouTube. They have, this is just a sample of some of the different videos that are in the open. As we can see, they're pretty important, they're pretty extensive. They have some great subjects, and anyone can go into YouTube and watch them. I do this quite a bit to catch up on some of my basic knowledge and to refresh some of my basic knowledge with a lot of things associated with the marine industry. So the general information that ABYC disseminates is they provide free information resources to the public. Resources for recreational boaters, so you can go to their website and you find advice, or at least where you can find advice on buying a boat, surveying a boat, choosing a marine service technician, which is something that I only started doing fairly late in my boating life, and I found it was a good way to have confidence that who was doing maintenance on my boat, or repairing my boat, or surveying my boat was properly certified to do so. They also provide resources for manufacturers and surveyors, resources for dealers and boat yards, and resources for educators and technicians. So they're very, very, very much involved with the general education of the maritime industry, as well as the recreational boaters. Anyone can subscribe to the ABYC email group. If you go onto their website and you click the option to subscribe to their newsletter, it's something that I get electronically. I get in email, and it's very good and keep me up to date on what they're doing. So another thing that not a lot of people are familiar with is ABYC is located in Eastport, 613 3rd Street, right on Back Creek. It's a beautiful location. They've been in Maryland for many, many years. I remember when they used to be down in Eastport on Route 2. But for the last probably 15 years, they've had this beautiful building in Eastport. And not only do they have this beautiful building, as we can see down here, quite a bit of it is open space that's meant for different applications. This, of course, is their offices. Sitting out here, you got a wonderful deck looking off into Back Creek. But one of the things that they do with this building, which has a large event room, this space, if you rent the whole space here, it's about 2,500 square feet. This rental space is flexible. You can configure it as a full space, like we talked about, which is normally used for major conference events when they host different conferences associated with the marine industry. They will have all this space set up. Or if they don't need the complete space, they can downsize it. This is again very important. If you want to rent this space, you don't have to rent the total amount of space. You can rent a subsection of that space. That's actually very useful for things like wedding receptions, celebrations of different personal achievements. Anywhere you want to have a large party or large formal gathering, this space is rentable. And then you can just rent the conference room space if you are interested in having a conference meeting, and certainly don't need all the space. They can break it down into a conference room. It's a 21 by 16 good sized conference room, and they supply all the AV products that you need. They have microphones and slide projectors, screens, anything, podiums. Anything you would need to do a presentation is included in being able to rent that facility. So it's available for personal or professional events. It doesn't have to be associated with the marine industry. It can be anyone that needs that space. And I've always said it's something that may be useful for CAPCA events if you ever get in a situation where you want to look at having a space a little bit different than what you have at the Elks Club. Maybe something that can be configured a little more easily than the Elks Club, although Elks Club does a wonderful job and has for years. Or maybe you have a daughter that's getting married and you need a place to have a reception. Last time I checked, and it's been a few years, their rates are incredibly reasonable. I didn't mean to do such a commercial for them, but I think it's a wonderful asset that most people don't know about. So CAPCA, with their relationship with ABYC, has a lot of very good benefits. It gives CAPCA access to the ABYC website, which in reality is worth a lot of money. If you weren't associated with CAPCA and you had to do this on your own, you had to have a membership. A single membership, individual membership, is $225 annually. And we get to basically use that for free, as long as you're a member in good standing with CAPCA. And we don't, there's some parts of the membership of the website that isn't really useful to us, or accessing it isn't really meant to help us in our interests, but there's a lot that is. It provides members access to online ABYC standards library, which includes their standards and technical information. Like we said, there's well over 80 different standards that you can look up and review. Again, this is extremely well used and valuable in the marine industry. In addition to their own standards, they also let you have access to current federal regulations and federal compliance documents. Even though these documents are in the open domain, having them organized and having them related to the ABY standards is very useful, and having them all in one place is also excellent, because you'll find that documents reference each other and interact with each other. They also have documents associated with more than just the United States. They have international documents that international global compliance standards. So you're not just dealing with what you have in the US. You can actually, they have standards that wherever they different from international agreements, they have documentation and standards for those as well. So as a CAPCA member in good standing, you have access to free online courses and training videos. So we'll show you in a minute what a course is that's free. There's certainly courses that you pay for, and those are also discounted at member rates. I would encourage you, if you want to do that you contact me first, because that can be a little bit non-obvious in how you coordinate. But we'll see that these training courses and training videos are extremely extensive and very good. So they have online referral directories for members and certified technicians. So if you want to find a certified technician with a certain discipline in your area or in some other area, they have an index for it. If you want to know who's an ABYC member in your area or a separate area, they also have a directory for that, very much like you have with CAPCA. And they also have referrals and directories for manufacturers and surveyors. So CAPCA access to the ABYC website. We're looking at the CAPCA website, the home page of the CAPCA website right here. And we'll talk about how you can find the credentials you need to get into the ABYC website.
Hey, John, you're not sharing your screen.
I'm sorry?
You're not sharing your screen.
Have I been through all this without sharing my screen?
No, we can
Correct.
see it.
We can see it.
Yeah, he's sharing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
It might be an option you have to pick on your end to see it, or log back off and come back in.
Yeah,
Or
Go
that
ahead,
different
John.
page.
Yeah.
it's very important that you can see what I'm talking about. And certainly if this doesn't work out for you quickly, I'm sure you can access it through the recording. So you go onto the home screen and you do a login. As we know, you click this icon here and it brings you to your login page associated with CAPCA. Once you're logged in and you're on the member side of the website, you'll see various different selections, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. But to get the information that you are looking for associated with ABYC, you click on the Members Kit tab, and that drops down, and you go to the Discounts sub tab, and you click on there, and that will bring up a section that has this information on it. As we are showing right now, is it gives you both the sign-in username and it gives you the password. I have the password blanked out. I didn't want to put it in the open, and we don't put it in the open. The only people that are have right to have it are current and up to members in good standing of CAPCA. But if you can get on here, which you can't unless you are a member in good standing for CAPCA, you can copy that passcode. From there, you want to go over to the ABYC website and you start over. You go to logging in. They have their own login icon. You hit that, and that'll bring you to a screen that is a sign-in screen in which you can sign in as a CAPCA member. As we've seen in the last screen on the website, it tells you what our username is. It's abyc@capca.net. So that's what you would put in for your username. And then the password that you would get off the website, you enter here. And that puts you into their website. And what I'm going to try to do here right now is a few demonstrations. And hopefully we can do this without too much trouble. I'll go back up here and I'll do stop sharing. And then I can come down here and I can select share. And then I can go to different screen. And hopefully now I'm sharing with you my browser screen. Is everybody seeing my browser screen?
Yes.
Hopefully my Firefox screen.
Yes.
Which just happens to be the browser that I use, my browser of choice. Doesn't matter which browser you're using, Google, whatever. But at that point, you want to go to the ABYC website, which I have as a preset selection on my homepage. And you come up here, and some of the stuff may become a little bit slow with both being on Zoom, and I'm running several programs in the background. So please be patient if some of this access isn't as quickly as you would hope. So here we are in the home screen. And as we talked about, to log in as a member, you go up to the login button. And that brings up the screen that we talked about. I put in the ABYC at CAPCA.net username. It brings up the password that I have embedded, encoded, and then I can hit login. And as you can see up here, it's working its way to get there. And normally that happens in pretty much an instant, but as I said, we got a lot going on here technically. So that brings you to our CAPCA account dashboard. And from here, we can make some excellent selections. We can have access to the standards. So let's go over and just take a look at that. Again, I'm sorry for the delay and beg your patience. So this is the standards page, and in my opinion, this is the most valuable part of the CAPCA benefit, member benefit, because the information you get out here is immense. So let's go down and look at the ABYC standards and technical information. That brings you up with to a menu that has many, as we talked about previously, standards that they have developed. Not all these, you don't see all the standards right here because actually there's standards embedded in the standards. So when we look right here, we are looking at E2 to E30, but we're only displaying about 5 or 6 of those standards. Within their standards, there are additional standards. So there really is standards from E1 to E30, or maybe a bit higher, that's associated with electrical standards. So let me just go to a standard that we can talk about a little bit. Let's look at construction and testing of electrical navigation lights, which seems like a pretty simple subject, but when you want to get into the details of what a manufacturer has to do to meet both the ABYC standard and also the Coast Guard standard. Of course, Coast Guard standard is the #1 standard, and ABYC lays on top of that. But often the ABYC standard then gets backed into the Coast Guard standard and certainly becomes the standard for manufacturing when there isn't a Coast Guard standard that particularly addresses that particular type of standard. So I'm going to make you a little dizzy here because I'm going to quickly go down and go through some of these. You can see that they're all documented on when they were updated, when the last time they were published. And so this standard was actually first published in 2021. It has recently, late last year, has been revised. And if we look here, we can see the PTC, or the Project Technical Committee, that has developed the standard or is responsible for the standard. And they list the members of that committee here. And these are not the total members. These are the direct members, what you would call the board members associated with that PTC. There are many other members that are volunteer members or members in the industry that have applied and are part of a PTC. Like I said, I belong to 4 of them. My name is not listed on any of them because I don't sit at the board of any of them. I am more a contributor, an advisor. So again, we talk about the revisions, and you'll see this on all the different standards. I don't want to make a big deal of this, but just show you the format. You see the first couple of pages gives you that information, and then comes back and tells you what's been changed and what's been modified. And then you always go down to a table of contents that's associated with the different things that are addressed within the standard. Most of them always start out because they're technical, would tell you a scope, of course, a user measure, what things are being calculated in. And it can go way beyond just the imperial and metric systems. And we get into measurements of atomic particles or measurements associated with lighting frequencies and things like that. They're all referenced here. And they give you references that they've used to develop this particular standard. But I'm going to run down real fast to what I call page 17. Just hold on with me. We're going through, and I shouldn't run through this so fast, but you can see each section, like we look at this, this is the definition section, and it's quite expansive. It says an all-around light is unbroken light with an arc of horizontal 360 degrees. That would sound pretty obvious, but in a standard, as you would know, everything needs to be precisely identified and basically put out there for no misrepresentation of any standard, flashing light and so on. So it goes on, and so there's no ambiguity in exactly what you mean by any term. But as you go through here, there's a lot of definitions. But let me show you something that I found very enticing. If I don't make you sick getting there. Actually, I want to go down to page 17, so I'm going to go a lot faster here. So you start getting into information about the projection of light associated with navigational lights. We all pretty much know from our captain's class what a navigational light on the port side and starboard side, what their sectors of coverage should be. Same thing with stern lights and overhead lights or masthead lights. But here's something that's very interesting and something that I didn't realize. But it makes a lot of sense, but it shows you the degree of expertise or the degree of importance, I don't want to say importance, details that are associated with any one of these standards. And here obviously is a port running light, which of course would be red. And we all know that that it should have an angle of 112.5 degrees. As we can see here, 90 degrees goes past that. But this is interesting, and this is something I didn't realize. They have built in some practical modifications, or let's say practical ways to make this work and still maintain the standard, be within the standards. We can see that past this 112.5, you can have an area that is at least 50%. You cannot make a light that is exactly cuts off immediately at that angle. So there's a standard for how long it can or how far it can go with at least 50% of total illumination. And we can see that's pretty minor. It's 5 degrees. And once you get past that 5 degrees, there is a transition zone. And that transition zone is where the light needs to come to a complete non-illumination. So this is pretty cool. I never realized, and of course it makes sense, on how the standards that we all know that running lights are supposed to be 112.5 degrees. But it tells you in the industry standards how they transition in and out of those angles. Same thing on the starboard side. When you have a combined running light, what the standards are there. Stern lights, so on and so on. But the other thing that happens is, and it's instead of trying to completely interpret this by this drawing, although it's something that's very interesting and you probably want to start at, you can find that the performance associated with these particular specifications are shown down here. Within a port side light, you have 112.5 angle that needs to be 100% illumination. You have a transition shown where it can go down to 50% illumination, and then your practical cutoff occurs at these degrees of arc. Pretty cool, huh? We go into starboard side light, masthead lights, and stuff like that. So this is some of the information that if you need to know, if you're modifying a boat, repairing a boat, you happen to be building your own boat, these standards are important to understand. But also simply from educational standpoints, we all know what the basics are, but this absolutely gives you the technical details that are associated with meeting the Coast Guard regulations. Let's look at another one. 828. So galvanic isolators, we all know what they are, but there's 17 pages of specs associated with them. Again, we get into the committees that have developed them in the update schedule and definitions and all those kind of things. But let's go down to some areas that shows you how complex testing that they specify associated with manufacturing these devices to become compliant with ABYC standards. Certainly they have rate of dissolving depending upon how they're fed and the size of vessel that they're dealt with. But more importantly for this demonstration, they come out with this, where do you electrically have your isolator located within your electrical system? Something that I really couldn't have brought off the top of my head. But here's some interesting stuff. You start getting into the general functionality of how it interacts with all these different parts of your electrical system on your boat. You can see each one of these areas has a subset of standards. A28 is the standard we're looking at, but if we want to see what the AC conductivity should be in relationship to the standard, it tells you the substandard where you can go directly to it. But what I really want to show you is some of the complexities associated and some of the details associated with testing a manufacturer that would build one of these or manufacture one of these isolators, the type of testing that they got to go through to make it qualified. This is AC conductivity test and different ways that is done. DC testing associated with an AC combination. So this is your device. This is your isolator, your galvanic isolator, and your zinc, as we would say. And this is the setup that they must do to verify that it meets the specifications to meet ABYC standards. So that's part of also what these standards reveal or show. If you're a manufacturer and you want to make sure you're within the standard, it tells you how you are supposed to test it and what particular specifications that it should be within, tested to their standards. So I'm not sure a lot of us are going to be out there testing these, but it's interesting to know how they're tested, at least it is to me. And then it gets into things like what temperature, what low temperature they're supposed to meet their specifications. It gets into different levels of salinity of the water, and so on and so on. Everything that you would expect to be important associated with zinc on your boat. But that zinc on your boat has to meet a lot of different testing and manufacturing specifications, and even the way it's properly, the information is properly printed on, the identification of the information on it, the way the manufacturer identifies the numbers, reveals their name, has ratings put on it. That's all also defined in these standards.
Hey, John, we had a question that might be applicable right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Any certifications for fiberglass repair and or construction?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are. I'm not really prepared, but we try to take a quick look and see if we can find that quickly. There's probably nothing, well, I should say, I don't believe there's anything associated with building a boat that isn't addressed somewhere within these standards.
So do you put it into the search function right there? Do you just, like, would you put in fiberglass?
You can search it.
Okay.
You can search it. I tend, after I get familiar
Scan?
with them, I tend to understand what the different categories are. I'm just seeing if I could pull it out real fast. I can't, but again, it goes on.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
on.
see all the pages.
Yeah.
Right.
But yes, there is a standard associated with not only the quality, the material quality of the materials used, the type of materials used, the testing that material has to go through, and repair of once a boat is built to their specifications, how you repair it to maintain those specifications. Yes, that's all. It's all specified in here. Things like installation of exhaust, things like inboard transmissions and stuff like that, propeller shafting.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So it does take you some time to get familiar with these. I'm pretty much at the point where I can kind of figure out what belongs in certain categories, but as you said, you can always do a search. So this is the list and access to ABYC standards and technical informations. That also ties into or is important to be associated with federal regulations. So this gives you all federal regulations, and we're mostly familiar with these co-regs, navigational rules and such. But when different standards reference different federal documents or federal rules, they tell you one to the other, and they give you the ability to quickly jump to it. Now, there's certain things that are federal compliance standards. These are standards that aren't addressed by ABYC. They're basically they're standards that are set by Coast Guard or other entities associated with the government. And they're also important to know if you're trying to build a boat, if you're trying to repair a boat, and things such as that. Here's one that I find is interesting. Handbook associated with identification of boats. And there's a couple things in here that I'm always, whenever I'm doing VSCs, I'm always taking time to explain to the boat owner what the VIN means or what the HIN means and how you can dissect it. And this tells you all the particular things associated for that to be a legal, compliant display of the hull identification number, format, the size, the placement, so on. Format. Many of you may be familiar with this, but just for a quick review, this is the MIC or the manufacturer code, the serial number associated with the vessel, and that can be set by the manufacturer. One of my vessels had the model number associated with the serial number. My 3500 Tierra R4 was the Tierra model number. The code here would be associated with S2 boats, which is the manufacturer of Tierras. R4 is the model number, and this was the serial number of how many of those there were actually, or what series were built, and how many were built, or your particular identification of your hull. Then you get into some manufacturing codes. In this case, you see K0. K0 means K is the acronym for the month, K is for November, and then 0 is the year. So this hull was laid down, and this vessel became certified, which is a standard of how far it has to be along in construction to meet certain standards. In this case, we can see that occurred in November of 2020. So that knows when that boat was started, and it was being built to the manufacturer's model standards for 2021. Cool, huh? Oh, maybe just me. I wanted to find something in here. Let me look real fast. Placements, the way they're supposed to be labeled, where what's incorrect and such. But here's something that some of you may know. I did know, but I didn't know the complete details, but these are complete details. The duplicated HIN, or duplicated hull identification number, has to also appear on the vessel in, let's say, a hidden area or a non-visible area. And it tells you different places where you can locate them. And it tells you so duplicate is primary for law enforcement. So if a boat theft removes the primary HIN, it still is one that is on the vessel that only the manufacturer really knows its location, but it will share with law enforcement and Coast Guard if they need it to identify a boat that had been stolen. It has to be in an unexposed location, and it can be placed under bulkheads. Could be, basically it's placed anywhere where normal visual observance of the boat can't see it. It can appear under cleats. If they want to have it on the outside of the hull, you can have the secondary number basically molded into a hull and the cleat goes over it. You can go down inside the vessel into the engine room, and maybe on the backside of a bulkhead, it can be there. But this is something that again, I found very interesting, and really wouldn't have known unless I read the standard. So let me just jump into something else. So we've seen this right here, and we have the basic details of what the government specifications are, but there's a lot of information that we maybe wouldn't find the details of. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the dashboard, and we're going to go to online learning videos. And we're going to go to free courses. And I just happen to know, if I go to page 4, I will find a video on what is an HIN, which, again, being a CAPCA member, I have full access to. If you ever go to one that says you aren't registered, just click on registration, and it'll automatically register for free under the CAPCA account. And if you have any problems with that, or you don't understand that, always drop me an email. So here's an archive video that's associated with that particular subject. You have to tell me if the audio is reasonable or not.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the ABYC studios in the Jack Horner Maritime Center here in beautiful Annapolis, Maryland, even though it's 102 degrees out. My name's John Adey, and I want to welcome you all to our member webinar series. We've done these in the past, but we're getting another start on these. We're happy to have you all along with us. I see about 69 of you are on.
By the character M.
So I'm just jumping ahead. I don't think you want to watch the whole video, but I want to give you some understanding of some of the information you can expect to find.
Code Q goes with it, starting with A for August.
So here,
through July.
here they're talking about previous formats that aren't used anymore?
Just been used
And
since August 1st.
definition of current
present.
formats?
It has the same general with the MIC VYB, and then we also have the US MIC. And it's not a problem to have two HINs on the vessel since one is an international HIN, but it is a problem to have them both on the same HIN plate, not separate.
So this is something else that I didn't realize until I watched this video, and it's not addressed in the standard we just read, but there can be a US VIN or HIN number and an international number, and they don't necessarily have to be the same or laid out in the same code. In this case, we'll see that the manufacturer's code is different between the Coast Guard standards and international standards. And if you have a vessel that comes from overseas, manufactured overseas, it's meant to sell in multiple countries, it will also have a manufacturer country origin listed on. In this case, it's the Netherlands. But what she'll tell you right here is this is improper because you cannot have this all on one plate. They need to be separated between different plates, which again, how would you know?
With a complete border or 2 inches away. So just something to keep in mind. This is not a great example of what 2 hull identification numbers would look like on the vessel, but the placement is great. Okay, next one.
We'll
So
jump
they
ahead a
actually
little
put the
bit.
whole identification number here on the inside of the steps. And once again, excellent placement. They put it in a place that could be accessed and easily seen, not covered up. This one, however, a little bit different. This manufacturer did not want to make it as easy on this boat. So
And just a side note, I don't know how many boats you have up there with 5 engines. Outboards, of course, the whole industry is going to outboards. But this is not uncommon down here in Florida to see 4 and 5 outboards, and at times even 6. And I don't know how they can justify the fuel cost. I don't know how it creates that much more performance. It certainly would, I'd see, make it a good target when we run around the Gulf that President Trump would want to take out. But this is not unusual, and I don't know how much you see that up north. I do know that one of the committees I serve on, one of the PTCs I serve on, the standard of having these interconnection bars, they never had a standard, never anticipated a standard for having more than 2 engines. So the sizing and strength and the materials that these are to be made out of hadn't really, there really isn't a standard for it, but it's being developed. And you say, why? Well, the torque and the amount of stress that's put on these bars when you have multiple engines is different than when you have 2 engines. So that gives you a good example of how standards are evolved.
this hull identification number is actually right here between these 2 outboards, which would be very challenging to see. Still accurate placement, but definitely more challenging to see. Okay, on this next one, if you can guess where the hull identification number is, I'm going to mail you a $200 Sports Authority gift card. That's right, I'm gonna mail this Sports Authority gift card to you.
So sometimes they make this a little bit fun.
Nobody knows. Guys, it was right here. It's so easy. But that's okay because Sports Authority actually went out of business a couple years ago. So that would have done you no good. But this is where the whole identification number is. Again, there is no contrast in this. It's not as easy to see, but it is a valid placement for a whole identification number. It makes it easy to access. I know this picture is not that clear, but that first picture that's yellow has a
Some examples of how not to do it.
13 characters. So the whole identification number is too long, and it's handwritten with a Sharpie marker on what was not sold until 2024.
So another thing that I didn't understand that this video made very clear to me is not only the format of HIN numbers, but how they're applied to different vessels and how they're used to track different things such as how many boats are being imported, even though there's other ways of knowing that. But if a boat comes in through a non-manufacturer route, sold, let's say it's registered in Jamaican waters and it operates here in Florida, and there's an incident that occurs. When that occurs, that HIN number is recorded to a database. That database is called the MIC database. It has a tremendous amount of information in it. And that database is available to the general public. And just again, a lot of things that I didn't know. And here's the example. The reason why I'm showing you this is it's a good scenario where you may have learned a standard or read a standard, but you haven't completely understood what that standard means. I'll give you one or two other examples. I don't know how I'm doing on time here. Please.
John, we're getting pretty close to where we need to start running a few questions that we have in the queue. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. And really, I had only intended to show you a training video on electric shock drowning, which is often a misunderstood subject. And this is a very, very good training video. And then also a training video on fire investigation, which is not only available, well, there's two versions of it. There's a version that's available on the ABYC website, and there's also one available on their YouTube website, so our YouTube channel. But I think it's a good time for questions.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate this. I know that we get to a few questions here. I know that I learned an awful lot just reading your presentation in advance of putting it up tonight, and just looking at the depth of information. It's really amazing. So let's.
Thank you.
While I'm reading off a few questions that have come in, if anybody else wants to add anything, hold on just a minute. I have to scroll back a little bit to find the first one. We've been
And certainly
holding.
comments in addition to
719, Bob, 719 is the first question.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of a double question, John. This is from Tony Tomasello. You touched on global standards, and the question is, do other countries accept these global standards? And hand in hand with that, are there people from other countries on a PTC that develop standards that might be applicable globally?
Well, the answer is yes and yes. There are other countries that simply say we adhere by the ABYC standards. There are countries and conglomeration of countries like the EU that has their own standards that are a combination of ABYCs and things that they have chosen to modify or add to them. When you go into that global compliance document, it has quite a long listing of all the countries that has boats or manufactures boats or has standards for boats, and then references back to what particular standards that they adhere to or they considered important in their industry. So yes, there is quite a bit of interaction internationally between standards. In addition, as far as them being on PTCs, there are PTCs associated with creating standards that are compatible or at least services other countries. Other countries have their own versions of PTCs, and then there are international conventions where these groups actually get together and write individual standards. I hope that answers your question.
Yep. Okay. Plus, I had a few others sitting on the side. On the certifications for technicians in my marina, I often see the vans pull up to work on people's boats, and it will say my technicians are ABYC certified. Always good to see that. Typically, what goes into becoming certified? How much time and study and testing is there?
Well, it depends on the route you take. If you're part of the foundation program, then you can certainly start out of high school or a trade school. Basically, learn some basics and get some hands-on time that would substitute for your actual field time. And but they have to take the same certification courses that anyone else does. And you have to basically pick the areas that you want to be certified in. If I'm someone that wants to specify in electrical repairs on a boat, then I would take electrical certification, and so on and so on. And certainly you can take as many as you want. But to become a certified technician or certified advisor, you must have passed and maintained accreditations or continuing education process in at least 3 different disciplines, such as just for example, it could be installation of accessories. It could be electrical. It could be air conditioning and such. So not all ABYC technicians, as we would expect, not all car repair technicians, they don't know everything from top to bottom, but they do specify in certain areas. And if they maintain 3 certifications and they continue updating them, then they can be labeled as or considered as a ABYC master technician. Now, many of them I know have over the years really spread their expertise out. And a lot of them take a challenge to get through as many of them as possible.
Okay, great. Sounds like a lot goes into that. We have a question from Michael Salenti. Who determines if a boat is built to ABYC standards? Are there any inspections of the yard or the vessels during construction or upon completion, such as ABS would do for commercial shipping?
It's a little different because it's mostly associated with recreational vessels, other than some places that cross over. But like you said, there's other organizations that they specify in the international and national commercial vessels. But if you are going to build a vessel that's ABYC certified, there is a certain list of standards that you have to adhere to. Those standards are often ABYC representative will come to your boat building area and inspect if randomly if certain specifications are being adhered to. And then in other cases, the manufacturer sends documentation back to ABYC for review. And there is a certain level of compliance that you must have to be able to call yourself ABYC certified vessel. Hope that helps.
All right, great. Great, thanks for that. And by the way, that question was from Michael Salenti, who I think I saw on the new members list that we kicked off the program with. So Michael, welcome to CAPCA. All right. I did have one more question. I don't see any others, but one, John, I was holding. I think all of us are very familiar with a lot of items on your boat being Coast Guard approved. Great detail on the running lights that you showed us. Are Coast Guard approved items? How do those relate to ABYC standards? Does one precede the other?
So that's a good question, and I think we had some good examples here. So Coast Guard says forward starboard or port running light has to have a viewing angle of directly ahead to 112 degrees, 112.5 degrees aft. That's the specification. That's the code. Now, ABYC says, okay, manufacturer, how can you build something that meets that specification under an ABYC standard? And obviously, you can't build something that exactly starts at A and ends at B. But there are standards developed, and the Coast Guard has bought into them or approved them, that you can have this differential or this amount of slop associated with manufacturing, and what the minimum and maximum standards are in the manufacturing process. So no, the standard is set by the government. ABYC produces the practical way of doing it for the manufacturer and how it should be precisely adhered to, and what the variance can be to maintain the Coast Guard intent. But here's where it becomes important. If you have decided, okay, I'm going to change my own lights, And this has happened many times when we transition between incandescent to LEDs, where often the color imagery was not the same. And there is a specification in which your color should fall between. And a lot of times in the beginning, the LED lights didn't meet that. They fell out of specification, which meant they fell out of Coast Guard regulations. But let's say you build your own light, or and you attach it to your boat, or you modify it to your boat, and unfortunately you have some sort of incident, which is caused a lawsuit, either for civil or well, mostly for civil situations, or federal charges, state charges, more importantly for liability, which often becomes a court case if it's not settled out of course. And one of the things that will come up and say, well, you modified this light. Is that light modified to the proper standard? They go back to the ABYC standard and they can determine, or there's a set standard and it's determined if it's in or out of that standard. And sometimes they'll even have a representative from ABYC or someone ABYC designates to come and testify about that standard.
Okay, very, very interesting process, fascinating information. Well, John, thank you so much for putting this great presentation together and taking us on an in-depth field trip through. I think we saw just the tip of the iceberg of what's available. So I would commend this to all of our members. Read the log every month. John always puts some excerpts or some pointers there that are always worth looking into. And that login is available to you as members. If anybody has a question, you can email John. He put his contact information up, or email me if you want some help getting that login. John will be sending you a token of our appreciation shortly, but thank you again, and thank you to everybody that joined tonight. We'll go ahead and close and say goodnight.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to do this and truly enjoyed seeing a lot of old friends, and hopefully I can attend more of these meetings by Zoom.